There's so much beauty in the spirit of Christmas, and in this reading, when you read between the lines, you think of Mary, 13 or 14 years old, and she is visited by this archangel and tells her she's going to have a baby. And her first reaction is, how can this happen? I mean, I've never been with a guy before. And the angel says, it's okay. It'll be by the power of the Holy Spirit. And so she humbly says, let it be done to me according to God's will. I'm just a little slave girl of the Lord, the little servant. And the angel tells her, your cousin Elizabeth, who was thought to be barren, is now with child, for nothing is impossible for God. Elizabeth, who was probably around 60 years old, long past the time of bearing children, especially back in those days. And what does Mary do? Immediately, instead of going out and throwing a baby shower, she goes in haste to the hill country and travels all the way to be there for Elizabeth, knowing that at 60 years old, it's not going to be any picnic to have a baby. And so she stays with her for 3 months, humbly serving her older cousin. And what is Elizabeth's humble reaction? Who am I that the mother of my Lord should come and see me? Now, a 60-year-old who would have been venerated as an older person, an elder in the synagogue, is saying to a 13 or 14-year-old, I'm honored to have you in my presence. Why? Because you believed what God told you would come to be, that it would come to pass. And she said, the very baby in my womb leaped for joy when you appeared. You who will be the mother of the Son of God the Most High. If there is ever a question in anyone's mind that life begins not at birth but at conception, it's this passage that tells us that both Elizabeth and St. John the Baptist, who was 6 months old in his mother's womb, recognized that there was another baby in their midst. That baby who was probably only weeks old. Mary, I'm sure, was scared at first when she found that she was going to be pregnant and wasn't married yet. I'm sure that there are so many other young ladies and young men have faced the same thing and chosen the harder thing to do. And because of it, our world is a better place. Never forget when I was young, my mom was one of those people that was always a great listener. That was her gift. People would call and talk to her for hours on end. My great aunts would call, and they were from Austria. They would call and speak to her for an hour on the phone in German, and she would answer them in English. One time there was, my mother used to swim down at the YMCA in downtown Pittsburgh. And she said, I would swim with the girls. And she would always say, well, one of the girls told me that her granddaughter was doing this and her grandson was doing that. And I said, Mom, how old are these girls? She said, I don't know. For whatever reason, they won't tell me how old they are. She said, but they must be pretty old because they have those numbers on their arms. They were in concentration camps. But still, they lived to see this day. One day, she got a phone call from a woman who was all upset. And my mom said, what's wrong? She said, my daughter's pregnant. And she said, well, it's wonderful. And she said, no, you don't understand. She's not married. And my mother said, it's wonderful. She's having a baby. But she said, no, you don't understand. My mother said, yeah, I understand. But any baby, no matter how it comes, is a gift from God. And she thanked my mom for changing her perspective. Life is such a precious gift. And think of all the babies that have been lost to abortion. Think of all of the babies that could have been. Perhaps that child in the womb is going to be a doctor to grow up and cure cancer. Could be someone to spread peace in our world, a peace that we so desperately need. We don't know. The world is full of wonder. Who'd have ever thought that a little 14-year-old girl would have a baby who would change our world, not just for all time, but for all eternity, because she was willing to say yes.